Hi, everyone. I'm James Garbutt.
And I'm Denny Dumas.
And this is the Garbutt Dumas Real Estate Podcast.
All right, so we started doing this a couple weeks ago, where basically just what is on the top of our minds, some questions that were asked throughout the week. Let's bring them to the podcast and just kind of share how we're answering these and how we're addressing people's concerns, questions throughout the buying and selling process today. One thing that people are asking about, super relevant for kind of coming out of this last crazy COVID 6 months, is a lot of people deferred their mortgage. I'm a buyer. I've had this question asked numerous times. Should I buy now, or do you think this deferral program is going to catch up with people and prices are going to drop in the next 12 months?
Well, it's a challenging question.
It is.
There's a lot of, it depends. What are you buying? A lot of things that come to mind. I guess I should just start by saying I'm the type of individual that needs to see something happen or start to happen, a trend start taking place, foreclosures and court-ordered sales starting to pop up more frequently, to actually believe it's going to have an impact.
Yeah.
Before COVID hit, the market was trending aggressively upward, I thought, in the early days of 2019. It was
2020.
showing, or 2020.
Yeah.
It was showing that 2019 felt like, to me, the bottom, and 2020 was on an upward trend. So, and I've said this before, I personally am hesitant to believe, with what I see out there right now, that the mortgage deferrals are going to have an impact on the supply and demand enough to impact prices downward. Mm-hmm. I think it comes down to what you're buying. And what I mean by that is, if you're looking to get an entry-level detached home, it is such a strong seller's market for the cities that we work in that waiting doesn't seem logical. Waiting seems like based on the trends, it seems like waiting is just going to result in a higher purchase price. I could be wrong. If you're buying a one-bedroom downtown condo, which seems to have softened up a little bit lately because of the high price points in downtown and a pandemic, maybe waiting doesn't impact you. But I don't anticipate a lot of those one-bedrooms to foreclose. And I guess the people that are most vulnerable to this mortgage deferrals are people that paid 2018, 2017, 2016 peak pricing. Mm-hmm. And if prices go up a little bit more, there's a small percentage of people underwater, like small percentage of people that paid more than what their value is today. Yeah. And I think in order to really see an impact from mortgage deferrals and foreclosures and all the downward pressure on prices that could come from that, I feel like the current market values would need to be below a lot of what people paid for. And I'd also just see more evidence of it today. And when rates are low, homeowners, I don't think I would wait out of fear, is basically it.
It's so difficult to make a prediction coming out of something we've never seen before. Like, we don't have past history to say, well, in the last pandemic, this is what happened 12 months later, right? So we're kind of guessing a little bit. What I look at is, like, who was likely most affected by loss of job, loss of income, mortgage deferral. It's probably a lot of, like, 20 to 35-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those people right now, literally our busiest market in the suburbs of Greater Vancouver is young families upsizing to single-family homes from condos. So when I see that as the absolute busiest market, to me, the question of, are those mortgage deferrals going to hurt Greater Vancouver real estate, is it doesn't look like it.
I mean, mortgage deferrals is one thing to look at. Yeah. There's a loosened stress test, lower rates. You can buy more than you could a year ago. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of people on the fence last year that didn't show up. So, I think, the largest portion that it affects is probably first-time buyers. Yeah. So it probably has reduced the supply of first-time buyers. But as realtors out in the field, we notice that a little bit, but we're not seeing it to the extent that you might see in the headlines. Mm-hmm. So, overall, I think waiting out of fear for mortgage deferrals I would only wait if you don't see a home you love, or if the product that you're looking for is more of a buyer's market, meaning that there's a lot of listings for it. If there's a lot of listings and a small percentage of sales going through, call it 1 out of 10 of them are selling in a given month, or then there's no urgency to buy in theory. And this kind of applies to call it luxury suburb homes or expensive small 1-bedroom apartments or anywhere that the pre-sales were getting some ridiculously high prices a couple of years back. So there might be some people that bought in some expensive 11 to 1,300 square foot suburb condos, the Burnaby condos that got pretty expensive. Yeah. That might be in a bit of trouble, but no, I wouldn't wait out of fear. I think that's, you're guessing and you're trying to, I would buy when the right property comes up, especially right now with the rates being so low.
I like it.
All right, Denny, you had a buyer question. I'm going to give you a seller question. So a seller question comes in. This is it's come up a few times. You're a seller, you've listed your place and you haven't seen an offer and you're wondering, where are the offers? Where are the offers? And oftentimes it's a price thing, but I think what the question is, what are the conversations you're having? And I feel like the offers are different for different types of properties. Mm-hmm. So I guess my question for you, Denny, is when a seller is priced a little bit higher than, say, the value of their home, and they're wondering where that offer is, what are the conversations you're having with that seller?
Depends a lot on like timing, how long we've been on market, how activity has been throughout the life of the listing. I think a couple big things that sellers don't necessarily understand is they understand the value of their home. Let's say you've had those conversations throughout the life of the listing and they wanted to just try it at a higher number. And they say, well, someone can, like the example we were kind of talking about was, let's say you're listed at $999. The home is, we've kind of chatted about a market value of $900,000. So let's say you're priced $75,000 to $100,000 too high. I think a lot of people are just too nice to write lowball offers. They think they're just going to get thrown out the window, or they're not going to see a counter, or they're going to offend someone. And I think that's a real thing in a buyer's mind, is they don't want to offend people. The other thing I think is important in Greater Vancouver to understand is a lot of people in Greater Vancouver are buying to their maximum capacity. They're stretching themselves to get into that 2-bedroom condo that's $600K or that single family house that's 1.1. So they don't have the capacity to even search and look for that property. So let's say my budget is $1 million. You're listed at 1.1. I am stretching myself to get to $1 million. So my searches online, what I'm looking for, may cap at $1 million. So I'm not even seeing your property. So I think overpricing your home right now in Greater Vancouver, based on how many people are stretching themselves to get into the market, you're getting less eyeballs because people are stretching themselves.
Yeah. I think a real good specific example that happened to us lately was, we have this Marana loft down in the New West Quay, and we were priced at $575, and we had an offer. And we had no offers at $575. We reduced the price to $550, and we ended up, selling it there. So in theory, like that was an anomaly where usually if your price is at $575, you're going to see those $550 offers. Mm-hmm. But I guess the message here is that when it comes to condos specifically, there is this, I don't know, maybe it's our culture. We're too nice. But there is this tendency not to lowball on average. Most buyers won't lowball. And I guess what I mean by that is if say you have say your property is worth $690 and you've priced it at $750, and you're wondering where those $690 or $700, say you're worth around $700, but we were wondering where those offers are. Well, buyers might be willing to pay $690 for it, but because you're priced at $750, a lot of people won't submit that offer. And it's common for one thing, people may be too nice. Two, condos, there's a lot of other selection. So keep in mind, if you have a condo and you're slightly overpriced, you might be just helping your neighbors sell that might be just slightly underpriced to you. So it's a little bit more price sensitive that way. But to give you the opposite end of the spectrum, builder products, teardowns, land value, builders don't care about lowballing. So we have an example of, in the same week, we had an example of a condo that was priced at $575 that had buyers willing to pay $550 for it, floating around, but waiting for that price reduction to do it. And then I also had a client looking for land in North Burnaby, and I'm phoning these overpriced listings that are 1.9, 2 million that should be 1.6, and just to make sure there's no missed opportunity there. And I'm having conversations with these agents and like, oh yeah, we've seen like half a dozen offers. So they're priced at 2 million. And they've seen half a dozen 1.6-ish offers. Yeah. Because builders are willing, they understand. You don't leave anything unturned. You make sure you exhaust every opportunity. They throw in the offer. But when it comes to condos, first-time buyers or regular people, we're a little more sensitive. So just want, not to say get out there and lowball everywhere, recognize the context of it, but there is a time to lowball. And, try to look past the list price sometimes and look at the value. Oftentimes land value gets lowballed, and oftentimes luxury detached. It's not uncommon for, in condos, I think the average is, average condos sell around 97, 98% of the list price. But when it comes to luxury detached or land value, it's not common to be 10 or even sometimes 20% off the list price.
I think you mentioned inventory, and I think that's a really important comment. Right now, condos are much slower than let's say entry-level single-family homes. And there's a lot more supply of condos. So overpricing yourself a touch with a condo, the reason you're not seeing an offer in a lot of cases is just because there's a lot of other options that are priced slightly below you that a buyer is thinking, well, I might as well just go for this one that's already priced lower and they're pretty much the same.
There's not many times where you can get away with overpricing, but I'd say if there was any sort of, it needs to be a very unique and rare property. Not that it's overpriced, but Denny just sold a 2-bedroom on the water in Queensboro at a price that didn't seem normal for a 2-bedroom, but it was super rare and luxurious. Yeah. And that was a record sale. So it's the new precedent. But yeah, there's certain times where, the other option would be maybe a really good, slightly affordable detached home on a good street. If you're an unmotivated seller and you just know you have a real good product, maybe you could float it out there at a higher price than where the latest sales were. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that you're going to result in a higher price. It just means that you're going to be showing your home a lot, and maybe a buyer will step it up at a new level. But in an upward trending market, eventually the market catches up to you. I tend to suggest just stay off the market until you're confident with what you're doing. And when if you're talking about listing at a higher price this fall versus waiting till next spring, well, you know what? We don't know what's the better choice, but I'm going to go with time. So I'm going to say just go for next spring. Without having my crystal ball, I just say time is going to be the most probable answer.